Ohio State beats Maryland 37-17, but does not score an offensive touchdown until the third quarter of this game. First 5 possessions of the game, I think they totaled 4 first downs. It was a very sluggish start, and it wasn't just the first quarter, as it has been in a couple of the other Power 5 games they've played. It really kind of dragged longer than you would have expected in a game like this. And Ryan Day tried to give credit to Maryland's defensive front, but also took the blame for an offense that isn't on track yet. So, Stephen, my question to you is, what is your level, like 1 to 10? What's your level of concern with Ohio State's offense right now?
8.5, because they can't do what their superpower is right now because its offensive line can't block. And it started out as just a run blocking problem, but it's starting to turn into a pass pro problem as well, which has me worried when you're going to play a team like Penn State, who's got some guys who can get after the quarterback. They tried to do some stuff, some explosive stuff. Ryan Day said it. They tried to get out fast early in this game, and they play action, deep shots they tried to, and they could not get it to the point that Kyle McCord could get set to throw the ball, let alone actually complete it, because the offensive line blocking was just so bad at times. So that's why I'm worried. Ohio State's superpower is they can score at will, especially in the pass game. But if you can't do what your superpower is, how are you supposed to beat the best teams on your schedule? Whether that's Penn State, whether that's Michigan, or if somehow you survive all that and get onto a playoff stage, how are you supposed to win when you can't do the thing that's supposed to be your superpower? And that, even last year with the Georgia game, everything that went wrong, up until they lost Marvin Harrison Jr., they still had their superpower, and that was the passing game. They don't have that at full strength right now because there are certain things they can't do in protection. And until that gets better, and it might not, we're 5 games into this, it might not get better. If that doesn't see some level of improvement and they can only dink and dunk up the field, that's a problem for a team who wants to win on the back of its passing attack.
Andrew, same question. Level of concern 1 to 10.
I'm going to say a 6 right now, and I reserve the right to change that when we find out what's wrong with Emeka Egbuka. Coach Ryan Day said he was being evaluated as we were talking to him, so we're not really going to know anything until Tuesday, and that's at the absolute earliest. So if that's even if it's a week or 2 issue, that would take Penn State out of the equation, and then the concerns heighten. But I still, I think the glass half full side of things is this team didn't really play very well today, and they still scored 30 offensive points. They had the pick 6. They scored 37 points. They didn't really play well, and they still scored 30 on offense. And that takes into account a first half where, we kind of joked in the press box, like this team is sleepwalking through this entire first half. And you could point to a situation where the defense played really well, and we've talked about that before, but the defense played well enough to keep you in the game, and then the offense can take over. So I'm at a 6 right now because the offensive line is an issue. The offensive line is a problem. I wonder what's going to happen if the offensive line does not improve, because what do you do, like you said, when you play a Penn State, when you play a Michigan, even when you play like a Wisconsin or a team that can get after you a little bit? So I'm curious about that. I'm curious about Emeka now, because if Emeka's out, what do we talk about? Marv's already limited, and it's a worse ankle injury than he had last year. Teams are doubling Marv every play, and it was, we have Emeka. Well, if you don't have Emeka and Marv's getting double covered every play, where do you go? What do you do? I don't know. So I'm at a 6 right now. If Emeka's going to be out a couple of weeks, I'm at like a 2. I go up 2 and I go to like an 8. But yeah, the offensive line I think is enough for concern right now to where you're fairly concerned about this team.
So I'm at like a 7, and I thought I would be higher than that coming out of this game. And the more I think about it, though, here's the thing we have to remember. Right, the superpower is not there right now. This offense doesn't have to be as good as this offense has been the last 2 or 3 years for this team to win everything it wants to win. This defense has come along to the point where not only is it putting points on the board and making other huge plays, but it's giving this offense some margin for error. And it's giving it some room to go out and just be like great instead of like explosively great. You know what I mean? Like this game, they should have lost this game. In 2021, they would have lost this game, I think. This is the Oregon game in a lot of ways. Like you come out and, Talia Tagovailoa is actually even better than Oregon's quarterback that year, I think, Anthony Brown. And Oregon might have been a little bit better defensively that year. That was still a game where Ohio State put up, I think, 28 points. But, like, they found a way to lose games in years like that. And right now they are still finding a way to win. And they weren't even, like, I didn't think Maryland was going to win this game. But I think Ohio State can win these games and probably maybe even win a Big Ten championship with less offense, but it can't win with no offense. And there was a prolonged stretch of this first half where it had almost no offense. Like I said, it was like 5 possessions with 4 first downs. I think they had 16 rushing yards in the first half. And the problem with this offensive line issue that Steven's pointing out is I don't think the big solution is on this roster. Like, I don't know that there's somebody they can pull up. I tried to ask Ryan Day after the game, like, when you evaluate this team during the off week, are you looking at personnel changes? And he didn't, like, deny that was an opportunity. But I don't know who you bring up that, like, fixes the problem. I think it might help smooth out some rough edges, maybe. But we're already 5 games into the season. They keep going back to the same guys, and some of the same problems keep coming up. I don't know if they feel that the depth is going to be what solves this. It might just be that these 5 guys have to keep banging their heads against it until they figure it out. But a lot more to talk about as it relates to this offense. Get Buckeye Talk wherever you can find podcasts, and get the text 614-350-3315.